Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.
I mean, you're just surviving. And just recently, there's been another law that passed that parents who need subsidy, housing issues, some landlords are able to reject you and tell you that you're not allowed to operate this in a rental property. He would run away from this facility. He was caught stealing.
We bring up to be the next generation, and yet it's so counterintuitive that our government and our states are not enforcing such basic things.
Nah, I'm just gonna let go.
What happened, John?
No.
Were you gonna try to throw in a second dad joke? You only get one per show.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Common Ground podcast. I'm your host, Sydney Curtin, and with me is my partner in crime, John Fletcher. You can call him Philly, also the brilliant mind behind the Common Ground podcast. With us today is a very special guest we are super excited to announce, Shaolin Brown. Shaolin, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm excited to be here.
And before we roll into this, John always has to bring his corny dad joke of the episode. So, John, hit us with it. What you got?
So, really quick, I just, we normally open up in prayer. So, how does a salad pray?
How?
Let us pray.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Now we actually have to start opening in prayer, which I'm all for, but you just set us up for that.
Definitely. That was a good one, John.
Oh, boy.
Thank you so much for being here, Shaolin. I know it's been an awful, awesome opportunity just to start to get to know you and some of the amazing things that you are doing in life and in the community and so I know for us, before we get started, where are you calling in from today? Where are you located at?
I'm located in Trenton, New Jersey.
Awesome. And I hope it's a beautiful day. How's the weather there?
It's wonderful. If I could sit outside all day today, I definitely would.
Yeah, no, I know. I come from the same part of the country, and we've had some real hot days, and lately it's been a couple of beautiful days.
Yeah.
I know this morning it was in the 60s.
It's perfect weather. Not too hot, not too, overbearing. What's important.
And I know that there's a lot that we could talk about, but I know we're going to really focus more on just your personal story with advocating for childcare and stuff like that. So why is this such an important topic that you want to talk about, and why did you want to come on the Common Ground podcast to really speak about this kind of topic?
This topic is important to me. I've always had the inner being to wanting to help, and I truly believe that working with children is a calling, and the workers, the educators, should be also taken care of, because usually they have the passion to do this job. the passion, the calling, or something that drew them to work with children. You have to have a lot of patience. And I moved to New Jersey and I saw the disenfranchisement of home-based childcare is very different from what I was particularly used to. And it became frustrating because you have a passion to do a work and provide and teach these children on a skills level, but the recognition is not there, and therefore resources are not there. So this has become a passion of mine. And I also saw the work and got to know you, both of you, Sydney and her advocacy work, John and his passion and unification, amongst other things. And I was like, I said, what a great connection. So it truly is an honor to be before you today and to speak about it. And it's good to know genuine people, especially in the climate that we're in today.
Yeah, no, amen to that. That's so true. Well, and so I know that you've shared with us, but, share with our viewers a little bit about your backstory and how this became a passion of yours, even before you recognized that there was so much reformation that was needed in this area of our government support for children.
Okay. It started out actually very young because most children are born who they are. The gifts just have to be developed and as well as their skill. And I happen to be placed in surrounding because many children, not all, will also take on family businesses. So as a young girl, I had an aunt who lived in public housing inside of Brooklyn, and she had a stroke. Excuse me, not a stroke. She had an aneurysm, so it paralyzed the left side of her body. But she had a passion for children, and there were many family childcare providers in the community, and they were able to thrive and hire help and provide a safe place for these children. And I remember being young and always wanted to be with my aunt. I would watch her, I would help her. At this time she was a lone worker, and she was able to potty train these children, feed them, take them to the park, give them activities to do, all with just she would drag her left side, and there was no physical movement in her left hand. And at the time I didn't realize how much effort that was, that she, and just determination that she had. As an adult, I think back and I'm like, wow, she's amazing. Because I was just so used to being there. And so I realized that it was something that I loved. Most like a lot of children, I had many different goals and aspirations. One of the things that I wanted to do is why I got my degree in criminal justice, is to go into the law route, and now where I am, I understand why these two fields matched. They blended together. When I moved to New Jersey, and I originally didn't research the laws within the family childcare sector. And from what I experienced in order to thrive, I was absolutely shocked. And many times I wanted to move, but I said, wait a minute, I have the passion and the drive to stand up and fight for these families, as well as other family childcare providers that are here. Because I realized that a lot of them don't know what's going on outside the state. They're just surviving here and trying to make a difference in their neighborhoods.
Yeah. Wow, and how do you think your experience, with the criminal justice degree has really benefited you? How are you able to take that and do you? I guess one of my questions is more like, do you spend time educating? Because you just talked about like a lot of people don't know the differences. Like, is that something like that you majorly try to educate people on? Or do you use it just more for creating, like trying to advocate for law and changes?
Well, we've created a group. I work with a few other providers, And we're actually funded by different organizations to get the awareness out of what family child care should look like. We are 3 out of 50 states that only allow 5 children in home. You're allowed to have 3 of your own, but most states either have 6 children, and if you have the space, you have the option to go up to 12 plus 4 after schoolers is the rules in New York. Every state is different, but even North Carolina, they had changed their capacity laws to 8 children. I understand there's some guidelines there. So what I do with it, with my criminal justice degree, it helped me to study and explain legislative rules to other providers, how we can tackle. I actually worked with a few senators to get a bill on the table, which we are processing now for family childcare in New Jersey. But we need more support and, just from different angles, and encouraging the ladies to stand up and bond together has also been like a difficult process here, because I believe that people are afraid to come forth because you'll be penalized a lot of the times and judged. And I said I wanted to make that sacrifice because we are working with a lot of the family child care providers. We have now wanted to change the word providers to educators. They have been dentists that just don't want to do it anymore and decided to work with children. They have educated themselves, teachers with the master's degrees. There's a stigma around us that we are just homemakers, babysitters, just outlandish names, not understand that we are operating as a business.
I want to real quickly, just so, because I don't know it and maybe our viewers don't know it. You talk about the number of kids allowed in the homes. Is the laws based on size of a home, or is it strictly are the laws based on just how many kids, period, no matter what the size of the home is? Because for me, as somebody who's not as involved in that kind of stuff, I would think that the size of the house should probably matter, but I don't know.
It definitely is a factor when looking at it within other states, but not here in New Jersey. It's 5 and that's it. And what's actually bizarre to me is they don't give you the option to become licensed family child care. You have the ability to register, not become licensed. And you can also have 5 children in your home unregistered. So there's a lot more of us that are just operating under the table because legally it's okay.
So did I hear you correctly in saying that whether you're registered or unregistered, that the limit for child count is still the same in the state?
Yes, that is correct.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. Moving to New Jersey has definitely been, I've definitely made it home, but it's almost a block to thrive. I mean, you're just surviving. And just recently, there's been another law that passed that parents who need subsidy are now no longer going to receive it as of July 31st to August 1st. So the parents who receive it, they're safe. But any new incoming parents that may need help with their children, the budget has been cut. So this is a very unfortunate news, and I'm really concerned about how it may affect the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said about changing the talk track from that babysitter thing to educators. What then, though, separates, and how do you think realistically there can be healthy expectations set that differentiate the capabilities of an unregistered in-home child care provider versus a registered child care provider? And the only reason that I say this is because it's been relevant in my kids' child care providers. So Granted, the laws are different state to state, but I mean, before I had an income and had developed my own businesses, my budget was very, very lean. And I found a gal that was retired and she took care of her husband from home, but she was a mother and she had raised 2 kids that were great kids. And so she was watching 3 young children at 1.4. But I would say that there was very little education. I would say that there wasn't a whole lot of activity. And at the time, it was what worked for my budget. And then when I switched to a in-home daycare provider that was licensed, the pricing greatly changed, but the environment greatly changed too. So like where does that line get drawn in your ideal scenario from your perspective and all of your years of experience in this?
Okay, so that's the importance of being licensed, because you have multiple annual inspections. I believe in New York, they have about 4 a year. Here in New Jersey, we have 2 unexpected visits per year. Also, we have to have CPR training. Most recently, they enforced something where we have to have 6 hours of training per year. After 3 years, turn it in, about 22 hours in total. Well, I think it's 6 hours the first 2 years. I don't want to quote it exactly because I don't know the factual numbers. So that's another important. Also, we have a new registry. It's called Grow New Jersey Kids, and it's a star point program. So it's where they come and they look over your home, make sure you have certain materials, make sure your health and safety, as well as making, and they'll watch you the way you you teach the children. There are other organizations. There was just a local college that partnered with us and gave us a rating, and I just got a rating from them as well, where they actually I had to bring in culture and diversity in different subjects and topics within my program. I mean, we really go above and beyond when we are registered, and it is important to us that we are teaching these children and they are thriving. Yeah, so that would be the difference of becoming. I know there are some bad apples,
Of course.
I hate to use the word bad apples, but I know there are some just some poor operators in just about any field, and that's the importance of regulation, not policing, but just regulation and having accountability for your program. It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm trying to think of how to say this. So, do you think like the whole daycare, like just system needs to be overhauled?
Absolutely.
Or do you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Or do you? No. Or do you think just aspects of it, but you just kind of started to answer? And do you? What do you think are the priorities that we need to start with?
So what seems to be an issue here in New Jersey, I can't speak so much for other states, even though there are some issues in each state, housing issues. Some landlords are able to reject you and tell you that you're not allowed to operate this in a rental property. I believe that was a big thing in California. And it's also difficult running this business, trying to purchase a home. But here in New Jersey, I would say the biggest issue is that the censors, from what I'm hearing, are afraid that we're going to take their children, instead of understanding that, there's enough children for all of us, and some people don't want the overhead. It could be quite costly. We have to have insurance. We have to have, we have to pay workers, supplies, keeping technology up to date, and just the funds are just not there. And a lot of us some of us work 24 hours, even to make ends meet. I mean, I'm personally not not one of them. However, there are some family providers who work 24 hours. So I believe the biggest issue in New Jersey is, they are afraid, that we are going to take over the industry financially. There was actually a new initiative that was just passed, or excuse me, not initiative, but there was money just given to pre-K. It's almost an extended hours, and it's almost you know I don't want to say a slap in our face, but it just, how can you constantly overlook us like this? During COVID, when a lot of the centers were closed, we remained open, and so that's when we got a lot of love, to a degree. However, they issued us certain grants and gave us, crumbs that wasn't befitting to, our field. I approached the legislator, and this is, it's just so frustrating, because legislation, they work with who they want to work with. It's a click, and if you say one thing, then they you get the backlash, you receive the you're blackballed, you're not allowed to come in certain areas, you're rejected. It's really a terrible feeling. And they recently, about a year ago, gave us a grant called Thriving by Three, which a lot of people weren't able to even receive. So what the Thriving by Three grant was, if we had any pre-K kindergarten children, we had to let them go. They wanted them in the universal pre-K program. And then we had to take a baby. So if we took a new baby, we would get $3,000. Now the ratio works is, if you have two babies, it's one person. If you have another baby, you have to get more staff. If you get more staff, you have to pay staff. And so if you have to pay staff for the new baby, $3,000 is not a lot of money at all. I mean, that would maybe last a month and a half to pay staff. So it really wasn't beneficial. I didn't even go through the numbers. Sometimes, I'll be honest, it's just a very sad situation when other states, I know that they're making 100,000, 200,000 a year in the same field. They're able to have workers. And it's running a business from home. Some people choose to serve families in their community and from their home, and it should be appreciated and encouraged. So, this is what I'm standing for. I'm advocating for and fighting for. We're also, we help to a lot of mothers in the morning. They come to our door in tears. So you never know what this family has gone through at night. And a lot of times we're therapists to our families, advocates for the family, and just every situation is a different scenario. Whether a lot of us are giving out clothes or food, or just being a support system for the families that they wouldn't get in a lot of other settings. And so, this is why I'm speaking up for registered providers across New Jersey are 1,100. That's registered. Unregistered, it's almost no way to track it. Unless you have someone there that knows a neighbor, or knows someone who operates and sees the children every day coming out someone's home, or you're friends with them. Yeah.
Well, it's really clear that there's a lot of reformation that's needed in the realm of in-home childcare, and it's such a valuable service too that's provided to families. And so making that something that's lucrative on both ends, both accessibility wise for families and for in-home providers to become licensed and registered, depending on the state that you live in, order to accommodate more volume and help more families, is something that is really crucial. And so it's really unfortunate that those laws are currently in place, but really incredible that you are leading the charge for some of these areas of reformation. One of the other things that you've talked about being really passionate about is the foster care system. Are there similar areas or opportunities for reformation in that realm of things, or what's the difference, and what does that look like in the advocacy that you do?
In the foster care system, it's so unfortunate because it seems to not be support or real fine guidelines on working with the children. And we are in a society where when children get to teenage years, they tend to lie, and they want to go back home. They go through this thought patterns. Where's my real family? And you can provide the love and you can provide the spoiling, but there's always that place on the inside of them. And sometimes it causes them to act out, misbehave, and it doesn't seem to have a real structure of support for these children. There was a case. I was working with a family just recently. The foster family was able to get help and put him in a weekday program. So Monday through Friday, he would stay in this program. He would come home on the weekends. Well, he would run away from this facility. He was caught stealing. Then, then he's fighting. Then he somehow found his birth family who were drug addicts. And so he was around that again, and he was bringing those behaviors back home. He was uncontrollable. It was no one there to help to restrain him, because these children get very, teenagers are pretty big. And so it was no, you're provided medication or services that are temporary, and you can't always blame. It was a stigma around foster homes, that all foster homes are bad, just like the stigma around childcare facilities. But I've witnessed beautiful families, cry and love these children, but there are strong behavior issues where there's no support. It definitely has to be looked into from all ends. I think we talked about Sydney, you and I, before, even from the families in how with the open adoption, how someone I've experienced families that will just take the child and are not allowed to parent to see it. I just don't know how wicked you can be from not allowing a child to be around their birth mom when that was the original agreement. And, so there needs to be just more reformation in that system, more avenues to bring more healing, because the children are our future. And we can say that as a cliche. We've been saying it for years, but we really have to take that serious and invest in the children, because when you invest in them, that's what you're going to eventually get back in return. Because they're going to be the ones to take care of us. One day.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Whether it's daycares in the homes, whether it's foster care, one of the biggest, I think, issues overall is, and this is a couple part question, so I'm going to ask a couple things in this. It feels like that the real issue is regulation versus deregulation. Like, how do you have the proper amount of regulation versus the freedom to really do what you need to do, right? And to benefit all parties. But the next part of that is the people creating the regulations are people who aren't in the business, who probably don't need daycare or
exactly.
foster care people.
Right.
And so they're making laws that make no sense, because they're not they have no part in doing it, or no expertise, which is where I'm sure somebody like you who are advocating is extremely important. But I know regulation is important. I think there needs to be standards, and I think on both sides. But how do we balance the regulation and the freedom to allow the process to play out? And we talk about capitalism all the time, about being, well, in a capitalist society, if you run a business and you do things the right way, it's successful. If you do a bad business, nobody's going to want to go. So how do you deal with regulation versus deregulation and allowing the whole system to play out?
It's I would say, well, first let me get back to when you hit the nail on the head. When you said who are making these laws, I say it all the time. I'm like, who are they speaking to? It's not any offense to anyone, but I'm like, are they really getting, the majority of our voice together? As well, it's communication. We have to have people who are strong in communication, training. I believe Rutgers University is good for creating surveys and studies, and there are programs. We are in a time where technology is so advanced, and so I think being allowed to even, I commend you guys to have this podcast out here to, just get the message out so someone can hear it and take interest in it. Because once you get the message out and people want to take interest and see what's going on here and create these studies, they can see what we are needing and what we are lacking. And follow through. So, that's one of another frustrating thing that I've seen here, especially even before COVID. People would come here, they would say, we're doing a study, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then it never happens. So it's also building a level of trust. So there's a new initiative that just launched here, and I'll be honest. When they first said they came and they wanted to interview us, I was like, okay, we don't need to hear another infomercial. We're tired, because I'm in a marginalized community and we do not want anyone to just come in, feed us, get some money because, really that's what it's about. They're getting paid to do this research, and then they make us broken promises and there's still no change. A lot of people are still in poverty. We're still working multiple jobs to survive and to raise our children. So that's definitely a very important area there. Someone to actually do the study and see what we need collectively. Not only that, I would say, and once they have that training, when I'm big on, if people are doing their job, you don't have to police them because they want to do an outstanding job. Most people are passionate about this field. There's bad apples in every group, but also when you boost the morale of a community, you will get a level of expectation, and it will be people who want to upstand and uphold that expectation. So that's also very important ways that, to reform this, and there was an issue I was working on before about, this is a little off topic, but like gun violence. And I heard a legislator advertise that, these community needs more police to police them. And I said, okay, I completely understand that, but they also need more resources. There needs to be a level of trust because they've lost trust. They've lost hope in these particular communities. So we can't just come in and throw everybody down. But, it's important that we put in proactive measures and not reactive measures. So, that would be my answer to that question, and keeping us regulated, because I have no problem if they have to come and look, letting me know. I want to do a good job. I want my families to be able to advertise. That's how your business keeps going. When they see that one child, they did an excellent job with this particular child. They went to kindergarten. They're able to read. They speak English and Spanish. That word of mouth still travels very fast. At measure. So we can never count that out.
Absolutely. No, that's really profound. I feel like too, going back to what you said about, and what John said too about who's making these laws. I mean, it's really frustrating when you look at something that feels like such common sense of like, why are we not putting out these resources for people? Why are we not doing these things for families and children, the future of our nation? That's supposed to be one of our most protected demographics in America as people that are vulnerable and that we bring up to be the next generation. And yet it's so counterintuitive that our government and our states are not enforcing such basic things. When it pertains to the foster care system, what are some of the things that you would like to see improved upon specifically in that arena?
I would like to see more support for the families when raising these, when raising these children. Whether they have maybe more respite services or to do unity if there's a situation where the child can be with their, birth families or birth parents, and they're not, ironic, because you also have some parents, not all, that want to attack the foster family. So bringing some unification and healing measures, therapeutic measures. There's so many different things. I met someone the other day where they found therapy in nature. So they would actually have a workshops and they would bring people in to garden, to plant, from, therapy in the soil and different measures, water, and just bringing some of these resources, because it is important that, children are exposed to, as many opportunities as possible so they could thrive. And sometimes it could be on too much on the foster parent. When you become a foster parent, you have to have a job. There's certain requirements even to do that, and to have a challenged child that you would love on. There's always that wedge there. So merging that wedge and bringing in help to do that, so everyone could work together. Because it brings healing in so many different ways, even to the birth family, if they can, just reconnect rather with their natural child, and I say that to say, when the natural family, usually there's so much history of wounds and just trauma. And when they're unable to connect with their birth child, that trauma usually stays there, builds patterns of anger. I was just speaking to a adopted woman the other day, and her mother, even natural mother, tells her, "I hate you. I don't like you." And there was no reunification there on how to be a mother, and there's a such thing as generational trauma. So when does it end? Who's stepping in to try to end it so we can be better people? Because sometimes I realize people just don't know how to be better people on their own. They don't know where to start.
Yeah. Preach. Truth.
And I know that I talked about more on the people who are making the laws, but I want to go now to a different, because of what we're talking about, and well, first of all, let me give you a small story. My dad was adopted, but he started as a foster child. My dad was taken by child services because he was found in a crib with his baby brother who was dead. And my dad grew up not wanting to know his biological family. He didn't care for his biological family. He did reconnect, I think, when I was in my 20s. Like, my youngest brother found one of his, I guess, nieces or nephews online, and somehow we reconnected. But like, I've met his biological family once or twice. I've never had an inkling on really wanting any kind of relationship with them. He comes from actually a really big family. They're pretty close, what it seemed like. But it just wasn't my family. But I just say that to give you a background on where I'm coming from. But I think there's cases where good, like you have good foster care parents, you have bad foster care parents. And yeah, I think I can blame the lawmakers and say they're out of touch. They don't know everything. But I want to go to the step in between, and that is the workers who are supposed to be advocates, right? And I think a lot of them are burnout. A lot of them are disfranchised, disenchanted, become disenchanted, and just become number pushers at a certain point instead of really caring. I think not only do we have to fix the lawmakers, I think we have to fix the system that is supposed to be the advocates for. And I think that it plays the same thing into childcare too. The people who are supposed to be making sure that you get the requirements that you need and stuff like that. There are people who are now doing it just as a job. I think they all started probably with the passion that they really cared for kids and they cared for, but they get bogged down where a system doesn't let them do things, or they see that, they say this family is a good family and they can't get more children, or this family's a bad family and they're getting more and more children because they meet certain requirements. And I think that probably happens on the same side with daycare where, some daycares that are performing really, really, really well in the home are neglected because they don't check off some box, where a bad daycare knows how to play the system, knows how to check off all the boxes, and gets away with all that stuff. So how do we make sure that the people who are the in between, to the law versus are supposed to be the advocates, are the people who should be there, maybe getting, like, I know in at least colleges they give professors sabbaticals. I think people in all kind of daycare should have some kind of sabbaticals. Even daycare facilities, like, if you're doing this for 5 years, you need a vacation. You can't not, like, you need, like, an empty cup can't pour into another cup.
About that, saying
you got to be able to refill your cup, and I think that's for all the workers, all the other things. Like, how do we create a system that actually benefits the things that you want to accomplish? It's what the question really comes down to, but I wanted to get more detailed into how I phrase that.
Well, I'm going to say just more recognition, because when people value your worth, they're so into you. But, we do have a system here where if you have subsidy parents, you are paid for about 22 vacation days. And so a lot of people do it that way, but you are responsible for your own health care. You're responsible, just for the basic retirement. You're responsible for all these things. Here in New Jersey, we currently have 2 union representation organization, and that AFSCME as well as CWA 1037. So they do advocate for us as well, and work out contracts, but they need support. They need support. But that would be my answer, is just more recognition, so we can be able to have that time, because I think I was just thinking yesterday how a lot of centers are able to close on the school schedule. So they'll let you know if the school closed, we're closed, however, family childcare isn't can't afford to do it. You can't afford to do it. So,
in the name of the Common Ground podcast, I love finding something that I get to challenge someone on. And John, you just said something that I'm going to speak to, and I'm going to tie it into my question for you as well, Shaolin. The saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, is a saying that's very commonly used. And when you're drawing from your own source of strength and your own source of power. Like when it's just you and your human nature, then no, you cannot pour from an empty cup because that cup runs out. But Shaolin, you've talked about your faith and how that's guided you in your journey and shared a little bit of your testimony with John and I. And I'm curious how faith has played a role for you in the walk that you've been on. To tie all of that back to the fact that I've always contested that you can't pour from an empty cup if you're drawing from a cup that never runs out.
If I didn't have faith, I wouldn't be before you today. I could not do this without God. I really couldn't. I absolutely could not do this. Getting up at 5 a.m., some mornings I take my prayer walks and, talk to the Lord, and I just to be ready for the children, even. And it's so important because I'm very open that I have a Christian daycare. A lot of families come to me, they're Muslim, Hindu, they don't care. I'm like, listen, we're going to pray to Jesus. And I teach the children how to pray to each other, but it really gives me the strength to keep going, reading the Psalms at 5 a.m. This morning when we talked about how beautiful the day was. I definitely took advantage, walked around the block a few times, stood in the backyard and just worshiped the Lord before the children came in, because I also want to have a peaceful spirit, because people do, there have been reports that people have flipped during being overwhelmed. And we have an organization right now, not-for-profit advocacy group, where we just had a providers appreciation day where we talked about wellness in the body, soul, mind, and spirit, and how to feed it and how to keep it filled, and just what things that we do to basically take care of ourselves. I've known providers who've actually had strokes doing this business. Because they just keep going like a robot, like a machine, and it's just it's unhealthy. So taking those moments to spend with God is I know most people see me and they're like, you just keep going, and I'm like, listen, and believe me, and when the lights go out in the private time, I have to have that relationship with God, because that's what keeps me going. One of my favorite scriptures, I have a women's ministry, and it's called Psalms 9:1, and that became one of my favorite scriptures when life just became so overwhelming. But he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High God shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. He is our refuge and our strength, for ever-present help in the time of trouble. So I keep that, I wear it, I write it on the tablet of my heart. I put it in my mind, and that just keeps me going. Even applying that, pray without ceasing. To be able to pray without ceasing from getting frustrated, because a lot of people, they're like, wow, you have so much patience when you can have 3 babies screaming at one time. They that will become overwhelming to them. But I know how to just pace them out and be able to give them love. I have a picture with my assistant, and she's reading a story, and she's like a mama bear with 3 babies at once.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We've been working together for 5 years, and she has never raised her voice at any of the children. She's just so meek and just loving. So, it's only God that keeps us. He's the only one that strengthens us, and to be able to hear, even in a bad day, to be able to hear that still small voice to speak to you and let you know it is well. So.
That's awesome.
So I know we've talked a lot about the different things that we need to focus on to correct, to change. And actually, real quick. Nah, I'm just gonna let go.
What happened, John?
No.
Were you gonna try to throw in a second dad joke? You only get one per show.
No, I was not gonna. It was something that wasn't relevant, and I just feel like it wasn't worth saying. but like, I want you to speak about some of the positives also, because like I know we've talked a lot about like what needs to change, what 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 we have to do, like, but like just like the whole faith question, and even the whole, um how do you get your strength, how do you be your faith, but what are some of the positives, what are some of the things that people can say, man, I know this might sound like, oh, our child care system, our foster care system must be in shambles, must not be good. What are some of the positives about it? What are some of the good things happening in it?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because when you are fighting so much to get a change in the answer, it could definitely have you with this laser focus to only see the bad, but the good is the reason why we're here and the reason why we do it, to see the smiles on the faces. Even when one of the greatest moments of my day is like when I have to, maybe get wipes or something. I'm out of wipes, I gotta go get wipes, for the day, and I come back and the kids are with my assistant. When I come back, they're like, Miss Charlotte, and they all come jumping on me at the door. It is like the greatest moment, and even sometimes I have to give them like a quiet moment, from a behavior. Maybe they were fighting over a toy, or just, they'll just come and just smile at me, or tell me that they love me. And it reminds you of why you do this, to be impactful in someone else's life. And that, I truly believe, is my call. And when you feel your call, is just a peace. It's just such a peace about it, and that you're in the right place.
Yeah, if I could just share a story real quick, because your whole story there was awesome. I ran a day camp in my early 20s. I was the director of a day camp. Yeah. And one of the many things that people don't know about me, but yeah, at the age of, I think I was like 19, I was like the director of a day camp. But
oh, that's good.
I had this one problem child all summer long, always in my office, always needing to be disciplined. And we would have teams come for a week and help out and be like extra counselors and stuff. And this team from California recorded a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the best pieces they recorded is they would do these little interviews with some of the kids. And they interviewed that kid, and the kid's like, yeah, Jesus is my rock, my savior, my like this. And it was like, like all the times he was in my office, he had picked up on something. And it's like all the heartache, all the time spent, all the things, like, man, this kid isn't going to grow up. This kid's just a troublemaker in my thing. But they're taking stuff positively away from the situation. And like, that's one of the things I want to make sure that in the midst of all these conversations that we kind of don't lose sight of, is the impact on the kids, the impact on the child, and how you can impact and change a life even when you don't see it. Because every week he was in my office, every day, I love the kid, but he was a problem child. But it was like he was picking up, whether he meant the words or not, he knew the words to say, and that was victory in itself. So
that is such a great story, and it's really encouraging to it's like that reminder that you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing, and how the children are learning from you. So you are making an impact, because it looks one way, but God's hand is in it in a whole nother way. So I understand.
Absolutely.
I understand that.
Well, and the scriptures say that the power of life and death is in the tongue, and like speaking that life into a child, regardless of if it holds truth or value in the moment, that continues to resonate in that child. So like you said, John, whether he meant it or not in that moment, the fact that he was able to recite that means that it will continue to hold authority in his heart until hopefully the Holy Spirit continues to develop that in him. So it was really cool.
Yeah, remember the words.
Those babies are just like sponges, man.
The word says one seed, another one water, but it's God that gives the increase. So you planted the seed, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is wonderful.
I love it.
So let me ask you this question. If Shaolin Brown today could go back before you moved to Jersey, or even beforehand, and you could speak to her, give her some kind of advice, what kind of advice would you give her?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. I would have to say back then I was so not confident and didn't know who I was and didn't know my identity. And I would tell myself to stay focused. Stay focused. And just be flat-footed, rooted, stand your ground, and know who you are. And so that's what I would tell my younger self. Because when you know your identity, it gives you a surety. But when you shake and not sure of who you are, it will lead you off course at times.
Disrupts everything. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I will say a lot of people, tend to have said, Shaolin, you're all over the place. But when I moved to New Jersey and I started family, I didn't understand it, a lot of times in my walk. And I realized I was on a path of blind faith, of just having to trust God. And when I learned how much work there was in childcare advocacy and my path at working at law firms and, having even a criminal justice degree, it was like everything just came together and made sense about who I was and what I wanted to do. So, though that's just one of my many hats.
Sure.
But, I also like to debunk that statement as well. On Sunday, I went to see a friend of mine preach, and she taught on the Proverbs 31 woman, and she talked about, she was able to break down the scripture. And, a lot of times sometimes we will put ourselves as homemakers, but she was a homemaker as well as a businesswoman. She even worked for the community. She definitely took care of home. And when you read it, I'm like, that's a lot, but really it's who we are. And it could be easily displaced as all over the place, but it's in our nature to provide. It's in our nature to be compassionate. It's in our nature to be an asset to our homes and our communities. So that is an encouraging word that I would have told my younger self, as well as to follow the path of that Proverbs 31 woman.
Well, that's a really good roll into my next question, Shaolin, which is, what is next for you? What can we be looking out for in your near future and horizon?
Well, right now I've also journeyed on. I'm into politics. This role in advocacy has led me to also be a voice in my community. And so I'm working on some great things there, and running for county clerk here in Mercer County, New Jersey. So it's been a great journey in experiencing and just learning and getting to meet new people and finding more things to advocate about. So that has been a passion of mine most recently. So look out. Great things to come.
We'll be wishing you all the luck for sure.
Thank you so much.
And that definitely is another episode. But at this point, as we start to wrap up this episode, and we come to a segment that we like to call Key Takeaways.
Key Takeaways.
And that is where we each share what we've taken away from this conversation today. And for me, it's that change needs to happen. We definitely need advocates who are in the fight, who have been part of the fight, to advocate for those who can't speak, and those who don't know what's really going on, and are responsible for creating laws and different stuff. So, but even with the change, there's great hope with the kids. There's great hope in the future, and but I really come out of it with a real appreciation for people like Shaolin, who definitely are fighting the good fight and standing up, and you can tell that that's where your heart and that's where your passion is. And you said that you were all over the place, and I tend to find that that's how God works. He takes people who are all over the place, and he uses them because they've developed multiple different skills. And when he uses it, he doesn't look for just one skill. He looks for multiple skills. And those multiple skills usually all come to a certain purpose that you've developed all those. So you definitely are living out your purpose. Your purpose was to gather those skills to do what you're doing now. And I take away that you are living your purpose and advocating and giving hope. So I appreciated what we've learned here today.
It was a ton of value. I couldn't agree more. For me, it was that there's still hope. I think that knowing that there are more people, like you said, John, fighting the good fight, especially for what should be our most protected demographic of our nation, is really encouraging, and it ignites a fire in me. It's also, though, that if God brings you to it, he's going to bring you through it. Like when you're given big missions like this, it feels scary. And it's like, where do I start? I know nothing about this. This isn't what I've done before. But really, when you follow in faith, he has a plan for his children, and he uses his children to execute those master plans. And so just trusting in faith that, and being bold in that faith that he is going to get you through the other side of it, was my key takeaway today for sure.
Thank you.
And Shaolin, thank you for all the value that you provided today. It was incredible. If somebody's phone had gone offline and they were driving to work listening to your episode here today, and it came back on right before they had to turn off their car and walk into work, and they could only take away one thing, what would you want them to take away from this episode here today?
I believe that you highlighted that word hope very well. So whatever your fight is, even though my fight right now is family childcare here in New Jersey and really over the nation, because many of us have different issues, but to just whatever area you're in, let your voice be heard. Keep knocking on doors. Don't let a no be a reason why you stop getting your vision, your purpose, or whatever you're called to do across. So that would be the last word that I would speak. And remember, no idea, nothing's too small. That story that John gave us a little while ago about the child with the behavior problem that he didn't know he had the impact on. He sowed the seed. So even if you're just passing and telling your story to sow the seed, it has some form of impact. So keep going.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And for our guests who are watching this episode, this is where we encourage you to, on whatever platform you're watching it on or listening to it on, to comment below and give us your takeaway from this episode. It just gives us feedback. It allows us to know what stood out for you, and it's very encouraging to read. So please share your key takeaway from this episode. And that moves us to our final five.
The final five.
And we're going to go back and forth, ask you 5 questions. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, who is your hero and why?
Okay. My natural hero, it would be Deborah from the Bible. I can use Bible scripture. Deborah, and she knew her place as a prophetess. She knew her place as a judge. She forewarned, and she said, if I go with you to battle, the hands will fall into the battle will fall into the hands of a woman. Like, basically, it's going to be the woman who get the victory. But they have so much respect for her that they said it doesn't matter. And I believe that's when God was also one of the times that God was given a place to women in the fight. Whatever fight that we're dealing with, he was given a place to fight. And it was the woman on the other side who killed Sisera with the tent peg. I love this story. I tell people all the time, she didn't know karate. She didn't know any type of special martial arts, but she used what was in her hand. And she knew how to set up tents, and she knew she had the gift of hospitality. And that's what she was able to use to defeat her enemy. So that is one of, every time I feel weak, every time I feel discouraged, I think about that scripture, and it helps me to keep going.
That's a great one. I really love that. Your second question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone that's considering taking on an area where they also see the need for reformation? Lots of people notice things that they want to see change and they don't know where to start. What would you say to those people?
Research. Get good counsel and know what to wean out and what not to, because in the multitude of counsel there's wisdom. So you have to be able to apply what you have before you speak. Actually know the area and what you are speaking about, and be led of the Holy Spirit. We can't do anything without God, because he will give us supernatural instruction, and ideas that we can apply out. So that's the wisdom that I would give to someone who wants to start in this area, and not to give up. That's the other thing, because like you said earlier, when it's time for change and it seems like it is so big, you can already feel defeated. And I believe that's why a lot of people don't get started.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth.
What a great question and what a great answer. I love both of them. What is one book or saying or quote or verse that you either live by or has impacted you or has changed your life?
Okay, so I'm reading this book right now called The Deepest Well, and it's by Nadine. I don't want to butcher Dr. Nadine. I don't remember her last name right off the top of my head. But there was this story in the book about, she worked in trauma areas in California. These were really, really bad areas, as a free clinic they had open. And it was just family after family with just issues and sicknesses. And she's like, wait a minute. And the book is her take on dealing with childhood trauma and how it has shaped our adult lives. But she told a story in there, and she remembered when she was in school, they would do science experiments with frogs, and they would take cortisone and put it, overcrowd a bucket of tadpoles, put the cortisone in there. If the tadpoles were too young and they put these levels of cortisone inside of the bucket, they would die off. But if they put the cortisone in maybe just a slight mature age for the the tadpoles who were overcrowded, they would grow legs very quickly and jump out of that environment. And so that story impacted me so much because cortisone is, of course, linked to stress. And so when we put a level of stress that on ourselves, or, any type of stress, we always have to have the mind frame and to set to be stronger and allow it to push us and propel us forward instead of dying. So that story was amazing to me, how science, actually backs the word of God. Or should I say the word of God backs science?
There you go. Let me tell you something. I would have been dead a long time ago if it were not just based on that story, if it were not for God. And it's true. It's a mindset thing. Like, you get the choice to allow your pain to define you or to propel you forward into something greater. So I love that answer. Next question for you is, if you could wave a magic wand and have people agree on just one foundational concept that would ultimately propel all of these legal reformations forward in a positive direction, what would that be that you feel people currently disagree on? Where it's like, if we could come to this consensus, then we would be able to talk through the rest of it.
Invest in the children in all settings. Whatever the setting is, the legal setting. I mean,
sure.
Whether it be family childcare or a center or a school, invest in our children.
Absolutely. The children first.
Yes.
Yes. And our final question of the final 5 is, if you could sit down, have a cup of coffee and conversation with anybody living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, goodness. Who I've been thinking about the last couple of days is Harriet Tubman. And how she had the tenacity to go help and pull people out. I thought about her feet being worn out, how she got sick, and she just had she was one of the people who had a very strong determination. And I would like to understand, her story, her determination, like, as in no matter what, someone from our past history.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all really good answers and phenomenal conversation. Shaolin, thanks so much for the value that you brought here today to our viewers in this podcast. And if people want to reach out to you and follow your journey and encourage you and see where you're at and what you're doing, where can we find you?
We have a Facebook page. It's called Providers Action for Community Change and Transformation. So they can PACCT. And they can find us on Facebook there.
And we will be linking the links below as well. So that will be available to you viewers. Scroll down in the comments of this and click on that link and follow Shaolin Brown for more.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was an honor to be with you.
Oh, it was an honor having you on, and I know we're going to be collabing more in the future.
I'm excited.
And I definitely look forward to it. So I definitely want our community to really support and follow Shaolin and her journey. Remember, when we take the time to hear someone's story, it gives us the opportunity to find common ground. Thank you, Shaolin, for being our guest today. It has been our pleasure, me and Sydney's pleasure, to be your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground podcast. Have a good night. God bless. Bye-bye.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast. Make it a great week.